Welcome everyone, it's Gray Shirt Guy, rock the gray shirt as always. If you've ever had to buy a whole nother hobby shelf just to fit your growing pile of shame, it's okay. We both judge you. Me and you. Hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment. Press the like button if you like the video. Press the dislike button if you dislike the video. It will hurt my feelings. It's okay. I can feel my feelings getting hurt now. So, I like to call this my weekly. I have no idea what to title this video, but we're going to title it The Weekly Video. And I like to take these all in one cut. I like to not do any editing on these videos, so I tend to do these over and over and over again. So I don't even know how many takes this has been. But let's get into it. What have I been doing? Been putting together a bunch of terrain. Instead of putting together my Sisters of Battle, and instead of painting them, been putting together some terrain. Why? Well, because I had some terrain and I didn't like it. That's basically it. I had some terrain from a while ago. Guy painted it up, based it, put some effort into it. Just didn't like it. So I got rid of it. And then I went out and shopped for more terrain. Looked at some GW stuff, looked at some non-GW stuff, and then settled on some ITC terrain. ITC was running a sale on their website. They might still be running the sale on their website. Not 100% sure as of the time of the video. But go check. Go over to Frontline Gaming. Not a sponsor or anything. I just like the terrain. And we'll show you here in a little bit some of the terrain all set up on the table. It's looked pretty nice. You may have seen the terrain already in last week's video. You've seen some of it. And in the little stop motion I did, and we'll get into the stop motion a little bit more because it definitely carries it on. But before we get into the terrain, let's talk about that pile behind me, because that pile behind me is a lumen. Now that pile is not the entire pile. That pile is nowhere near the entire pile. That is just the most recent addition of the pile. Before we talk about the pile, let's talk about this little tube right here. So I ordered some Black 2.0. This used to be the Black is Black. Now the Black is Black, I know, it's Fanta Black, but the dude who made it copyrighted it, so nobody else can buy it. He's been a jerk. So this guy, I think his name's Stuart. I forget his. It's hard to read the italicized, so it's like simple, something like that. So anyways, he made Black 1.0, and then he released Black 2.0, and then he's recently released Black 3.0. I bought 2.0 off Amazon before I found out that you can get 3.0, and 3.0 is on his website. So, whatever, I bought it. It's cool. I also got some fluorescent paints in. These are pretty sweet. I did not realize how fluorescent magenta was going to be until I put it on a model. I had a friend of mine send me, I don't have it actually, I don't know if I even have any pictures of it. A 3D printed Karn the Betrayer, but it was kind of like not exactly. It was kind of like a representation of Karn the Betrayer. So I didn't have the magenta green because I ordered that, but that's not coming for like 3 more weeks because it's coming from the Netherlands. Amazon, why are my orders coming from the Netherlands? Vallejo, why can't I get a hold of fluorescent green anywhere aside from the Netherlands? I don't know. It's some hobby store in the Netherlands just happen to have it. So it's probably on a boat. It's probably on a boat stuck in the canal. No, probably not. Actually, it's probably stuck. No, if it's coming from the Netherlands, it's probably on a plane or it's on a different boat. But anyways, so that will probably be in a couple weeks. But I was like, well, he doesn't know. He doesn't care if I paint the eyes red or magenta. So I put magenta on there, and it was crazy fluorescent. Not glow in the dark, but definitely really glowy. So that was an interesting surprise. So I did get I got blue, yellow, orange, and magenta, and I got the fluorescent paints for the Sisters of Battle because I wanted to do some cyberpunk-ish effects with the fluorescence, and so I'm actually excited to see how that will turn out. But instead of, so I ordered the terrain, it showed up last week, I put it together, and it had some issues. Had some issues with the terrain. Specifically, the main cathedral building. So let's go over, we'll go to the video of all of the terrain on the table. So let me minimize this a little real quick, and we'll play this video. If I can hit the play button. And it's a little panning shot of the table. I'm going to probably put away the GW board and pull out a mat. But this is all the terrain I got. Now, as you can see, I got one extra of the big building. And so that's what we're going to discuss. The terrain is great. I like this terrain. I really like the way it looks. It's good terrain. And aside from the largest building that's got Cypher and, what's his name? Sly in the background. Aside from that one building, everything else in this kit was great, was well laser cut. I like the color. It's put together really well. And, yeah, so I didn't have any problem with it. But the one building in the center, and we'll pause it here. Let's go back to that real quick. So, here, right here. Okay, cool. So, the building in the background, the exact mirror copy, the one in the foreground, the one in the background had a bunch of laser cut issues. The laser cutting didn't go all the way through. It was really hard. So, all of the other buildings on the right, left, whatever, they came in little sprues. You popped them out, you sanded them down, you glued them together. Super easy. Each building put together in like 10-15 minutes, no problems. Once you got like the rhythm down and you got your knife or your sandpaper, it's super easy, looks really good. I really like this terrain. The only thing I didn't like was the long box, the long storage container. That was really annoying to put together. Well, the problem is the big cathedral building is the biggest kit. And so what I had done is I had bought $200 for a whole set of like all the Gothic ruin terrain, and it only comes with one of the big buildings. And I got to the big building, and it was so hard to put together. It was just annoying. It took me, like I said, the other ones take like 10-15 minutes to put together. This one took me like 6 to 7 hours to assemble. Because the laser cutting was so bad, it wouldn't pop out. I had to use a dikes. I had to use a bigger, thicker clippers. I had to use my hobby knife. I had to like end up like kind of cracking it out, which caused the rear paper of the MDF to tear in a bunch of places. Now, if you were going to paint this, that's not that big a deal. But I actually like the brown and like I actually like this color, and I wasn't planning on painting it. Apologies. So I wasn't planning on painting it, because I like the way it looks. And so when I sent an email, I fired an email off to Frontline Gaming, and I was like, hey, the quality control of the largest building in the set wasn't really good. It took a significant amount of time to assemble. Here's a couple pictures of some areas that were really teared and definitely weren't manufactured properly. Just wanted to let you know. That I think I sent it off like Saturday night when I finally finished the building. They come back to me. They sent me an email back on Monday, apologizing, wanting to make it right, wanting to reach a solution. And I was like, well, I mean, if you're offering, I would just like another cathedral, just one building. And this is where the misunderstanding happens, and I don't know where, because I reread the email a bunch of times. I kind of think the person who read it, it was a Monday morning, and they misinterpreted what I was saying. Because what I was saying is I just want one building, just one cathedral. I just want one replacement of the big building. And they came back and they're like, oh, it's really going to be we'd be out a whole bunch of money if we sent you a replacement. But it was weird because they had offered right away to replace the broken parts. Now, I'd already glued it together, so I'm like, well, I got to tear it apart, which is going to cause more damage, to put the replacement parts back on. And I was like, I was like, oh man, I'm such a dummy. I shouldn't have put this together. I should have just, let you guys know. I feel kind of bad for not letting you all know that there was a problem. But then they came back and they were like, how about we either do a partial refund or we give you 50% off a replacement? And I'm like, all right, okay. And I thought about it, and I'm thinking, I'm like, well, the cathedral's going for $60 right now. They got a sale. So, get one for $30, that'd be fine. So I go like, yeah, let's go with the 50% off. They sent me an invoice. Invoice is for $99. And once again, the whole set is $200. And I'm like, Now I understand. I understand that there was a misinterpretation. The communication lines were crossed. And at this point, I tried calling them. But they didn't answer the phone. But they had just sent me an email. And so I'm thinking, like, these guys must be working from home. They either aren't answering the phone on purpose, or they're just not at home. And so I was like, oh, okay. All right. I finally reply. I'm like, hey, I got the invoice, but it should be for like $30 or $45 if you wanted to go like full retail price of like half off retail. So half off 75 would be $45. But like it should be like somewhere around there, not $99. And they're like, I misunderstand. And they're like, I must be misunderstanding you. Do you only need the cathedral building, or do you need the whole bundle? But the whole time, my email was only, hey, I like the whole set. This one building was a pain. Try not to be a Karen. Try not to be, like, I tend to not do that. I very rarely ever leave customer complaints. It's just I wanted to bring it up because it, took me 6 hours to build a damn building. And they're like, oh. And then I was like, well, I mean, if you're offering to give me an entire full bundle for $100, I'll take it. And they're like, no, we'll just cancel that invoice. Don't worry about that. We'll just send you the cathedral, which is kind of what I wanted them to begin with. So they sent me the cathedral. The funniest thing though is the whole set took like 4 or 5 days to get here. The cathedral took like 2 days, but it was shipped USPS ground the same way, and it only weighed like 3 pounds less, 4 pounds. It was maybe it was like 6 pounds less or something like that. That has nothing to do with them. This is just to be like, man, UPS was really fast on this box, but not fast on the first box. That's more of a UPS problem. So, as you can see, now I have 2. And now I feel compelled to paint them. My table is full of a mountain. All right. So, let's get into a few more things. And I don't need this window for that. Beep. Back to me. All right, the pile behind me. So the pile behind me, I think I talked about it last week. I had ordered it. I don't know if it's shown up yet, but we have our... No, actually, this pile showed up. I might not have mentioned it. I probably didn't mention it because actually, no, that's right. I released a stop motion video last week. I didn't release a update video. So the pile behind me came last Friday, and it is an entire 2,000 point army of World Eaters and an entire 2,000 point army of generic Primaris Space Marines that I'm going to paint as Howling Griffins, because I did paint some Howling Griffins a while ago, probably like 2 years ago at this point, and I really liked it. It's a complicated quartering color scheme. It's like a yellow and a red. It's a bit of work, but I think it looks really good. So that's what I got those for. Wanted to show you the pile. Wanted to show the terrain. Really, really having a good time. And the stop motion kind of leads me to the next topic. So the stop motion video got a decent amount of views compared to other videos on my channel. There's a few videos on my channel that have gotten thousands of views, but the most amount of stuff on my channel only gets like 25 to like 10 to 25 views. This one's doing really good. My like ratio is getting good. So you guys who are subscribing are obviously liking my content, liking the models. I'm also painting more, and I'm actually physically producing more things. It's not like I'm playing a video game. Video games are fine. World of Warcraft is great. Total War Warhammer 2 is great. But one thing is I find that you really have to interact with your audience a lot more when you're painting or when you're playing a game and you're streaming and you got chat and everything. I like to be a little bit more hands-off. I like to do my hobbies, let you guys know what I'm doing. And it seems to be, that seems to be working a little bit better. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoy the hobby stuff and the updates. I haven't been compelled to play Magic. Like I've been keeping up with all the new sets and new stuff and new controversy and Strixhaven and all that stuff. I just haven't felt compelled to actually crack open MTGO and play some Commander. It'll come back. It ebbs and flows. Warhammer one day, Magic the next day. dead space the next day. Like it moves around. You know, there'll be a week here, a week here. It's fine. I'll eventually at some point come back to playing Magic. It's not the big a deal. It's just I'm not compelled to right now. But the stop motion thing has been a thing that I've been wanting to do for a while. Didn't really know what to put a name on it. So I got a new device. I was noticing on the stop motion that I was having to press either on the touch screen or on the top of the camera is the photo button for my camcorder. My Sony 4K camcorder, it's pretty nice. I actually like it. I would get a DSLR, but at this point in time, that camcorder has been working great for me. So until I need to upgrade, I'm going to stick with that thing because it's 4K. Takes really good pictures for, like, if the lighting's good, the picture quality is really good, high resolution. It works great with the software. I don't have a problem with a Sony camcorder, so I'm not going to be replacing it anytime soon until I need to. But I needed a remote for it. I was watching some stop motion video of, like, well, what do other stop motion artists do? And one of the things is like, you don't want your camera to move until you want it to move, until you move it to a different frame in a different position to move your stop motion figures in a different, like, focal length, like on side, then maybe down an alley. You don't want your camera to move between your stop motion shots. And so I got a remote, and it just plugs into the side, and just a little button, so the camera's gonna move less. So that's a little nifty little device. It was, I think, like $60, so a little pricey, but I can use this on a lot of Sony cameras. So if I do in the future get a Sony camera, like a DSLR, because I'd want to just stick with Sony because I already have the software and I like how it works. Also, like, every TV in my house is Sony. I just like their products. It's not like a fanboy thing. It's more of like a reliability thing. Like, I got them once. I really like them. I don't want to really go to another product. I've seen some LGs. I've seen some Samsungs, whatever. But I actually like Sony. I don't have a problem with them. And so I was looking at different stuff, and I was watching a bunch of other YouTube videos. One of the YouTube channels I came across was a guy named Peter Crawford. He used to make stop motion animations from, like, I think it was like 2013 up till about a year ago. He just stopped. His last video was like, this is the last one I'm doing. I'm going to sell my collection. I'm no longer going to make stop motion battle reports anymore. And his early stuff, his early days, was, you know, as one would expect of, like, 2011 time frame. It was not bad. The models were great. Like, his collection has so many old casts in it, like old models from, like, the 90s, and, like, older dreadnoughts and older Tyranids. And it was like, it's a shame that, like, he stopped. But his production quality was getting better and better and better, and then it, like, you know, reached a plateau point. I think it got to the point where, like, each video had so much production cost and time into it. He was just like, maybe it's just something else happened, but he didn't explain why the channel shut down, which is, you know, we may never know. But I was watching a bunch of his battle reports, and I was noticing some things he was doing, and I was like, you know, all right, taking some notes. All right, how can I take what I'm seeing, incorporate it into what I'm doing, and then maybe make it a little bit better? Not that his stuff was bad. His stuff was great, and, like, the little storylines he was doing was pretty good. How could I make it the way I would want to make it? Like, when I did the sound effects on the last thing, that was all just Amazon, or that was all just YouTube free sounds. But, like, I would like to have, you know, VFX lasers shooting across different squads, and when I'm rolling dice and I'm binding out, all right, so, like, these 10 dudes shoot these 10 dudes, and, like, I roll the dice, like, you're not going to see the dice rolls, but I'm going to roll the dice off camera, and then, oh, okay, so this squad shot this squad loses 2 guys. Well, when I go to do the editing, I want the lasers to shoot out, and then I want, you know, those 2 guys to fall over, and then, but I like added some death sounds, or some impact sounds, or some explosions, or some fire, like some, like, gunshots going off. Like, those are kind of VFX that I've never dealt with. I've never incorporated in a video before, and so I started watching some more YouTube videos, and, like, starting to look into it. I'm like, all right, I do have After Effects. I've very rarely ever used it. To me, it's kind of it's like, how do I understand the timeline? And I keep forgetting that, like to me, a video is like one conscious stream of thought. Like, probably why these videos are never these videos are never really edited. But in a normal video, like a clip goes off and can be after affected before or after the process and the flow, and it kind of moves, and there's not a linear timeline of like how you do it. Like sometimes you have to go back and forth. And so I'm like, all right, looking at editing, looking at VFX, and I'm looking at camera tracking. But one of the things I noticed later on in like, I think it was like season 6, is he would take a shot and then he would move the camera to where he was going to go next, and he would stop motion the tripod to the new position. And I was like, that's fine and it's cool, but to me, I would want to move the camera and record video at that point of moving to the new camera location and then starting the stop motion. Or cutting it, starting a new, like doing a jump cut to a new location and then starting. And then so I was like, I could probably do this with a slider. And I was like, all right, cool. So I started looking at sliders. And then all of a sudden I was like, do they make curved sliders? Like, I could do like an arcing curve. And I found curved sliders. And they're like not super cheap. They're not super expensive, but they're not super cheap either. So I'm like looking at sliders, looking at light gear, looking at a whole bunch of VFX stuff. And then I look at that mountain of, sorry if you're getting loud. I'm looking at that pile of shame behind me. The mountain that just added to the mountain that's in my other room. And I was like, I could have bought so many things to help the future of the channel. But instead, I bought World Eaters. So I'm like, yeah, I'm spurging out a little bit here. So, but it's all right. At some point, it'll all get sorted. And I'll have World Eaters. And they'll be cool. But what am I going to be doing tomorrow and the rest of the week? I'm probably not going to be doing any stop motion for the next like 2 weeks-ish. The rest of this weekend, I am going to work on the Sisters of Battle, trying to get them all. Tomorrow, definitely going to get up and trying to get the whole thing assembled. A lot of it is from the Start Collecting box, so it's not super hard to put together. Try to get it all like not assembled because for these lovely ladies, I'm doing sub-assemblies, mostly just because they got a lot of robes, and I kind of want to paint the robes. Like I want to like get underneath them, like get the brush. And it's not that like it's harder assembled. Well, it's not easier sub-assembled, but I won't actually. Okay, it is easier. It's not required. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. It's not required. I could have assembled these completely and painted them. But I kind of like, doing a little sub-assembly. I did it with my Blood Angels, and my Blood Angels were like super easy to paint. And when I, like my Imperial Guard, like the Catachans were fine without it, but the Scions were such a pain. And maybe that's just Scions in themselves, but I got some of these. I got some poster tack. I got some little sticks. I got some foam to put the sticks in. And that's mostly for like shoulder pads for future Space Marine projects. But so yeah, we're going to be doing this. Basically the goal is by Sunday night is to have all of the Sisters of Battle ready. If not primed. Like if I can get it primed and start painting, that's going to be great. Yeah, so we're on that. But what did I do today? I went to see 2 movies because the theaters opened back up. Went to see Nobody, and then I immediately went from Nobody. So I was like at a slightly bougier theater. It's got like, you can press a button, you can order food at the table. It's really nice. So I had basically lunch, breakfast combo there. And I saw the movie Nobody, which is a great movie. It's like a funny version of John Wick. So if you enjoy John Wick and you enjoy the guy from Better Call Saul, it's a great movie. Go check it out. I would recommend it. Matinee. I'd recommend it for a nighttime showing. I probably wouldn't spend over $10 to go see it, but I definitely think it was a pretty good movie. Definitely, I mean, like when it comes out to streaming, whatever streaming service is on, I'd recommend giving it a watch. It's a really funny movie. It's weird because it's a short movie, and there are parts where it seems short, but then like the action sequences are great. Like all the action sequences are great and funny. So I went from Nobody to go see The Unholy. The Unholy's got the guy. I'm terrible with names. It's got the guy from The Walking Dead, which I've never actually seen those seasons of The Walking Dead. I've just seen the trailers and I've seen all the memes. It's got the guy, and he plays a reporter. He's looking for a story, and there's a whole bunch of history behind it. And then like the trailers are pretty good. It's spooktacular. Like it's got some pretty good jump scares in there, but it's pretty atmospheric. There's a few moments where I was doing like one of this, like or kind of like just looking away. It wasn't like terrifying, but it was just the right amount of like, creepy. Like the parts where like you're like, oh no, definitely it's good. I was gonna stay and watch Godzilla versus King Kong, but I'd already been at the theater for 2 full movies, and I was starting to get like, so I went to Hobby Lobby, which is a hobby store nearby, just checking out paints. And I was like looking at paints, and I was looking at oil paints, I was looking at acrylic paints, and I've been watching videos on like craft store acrylics for miniature painting. And then I think Nijon just recently did one, and his was on these Testors matte craft paints that he got at Menards. And I was like, Menards. So I grew up in North Dakota. In North Dakota, we had Menards, and I hadn't seen one in years because I hadn't been to that part of the country in forever. And so he said he got these craft paints at Menards. I was like, I remember that store. That store used to have a really good light display. And Menards is always great around Christmas. Like, I was like, oh, I was wigging out. I was like, oh, my childhood. And then I was like, $22. Okay. I looked that paint set on Amazon. Some assholes selling it for like $35, $35. And I'm like, damn. And then Testors obviously doesn't sell any of their paint directly for whatever reason. But then I scroll down, and Menards is selling it on their website for $22. Plus shipping, handling, and whatever. It ended up being, for the whole paint set, it ended up being like $40 after I paid it all, after I ordered it. And so like, but I bought that because I locally I'm working on setting up a little painting, like teaching some people how to start painting miniatures, and it's more of like a not a youth outreach because like it's not youth, but it has something to do with work, and it's basically giving people other things to do aside from drinking and playing video games and like and whatever. It just gives somebody another thing to do to focus on something. And I pitched. I was like, hey, I've been painting models for 15 years. I'd like to teach a class on getting some, like not a master class, but just teaching people how to get into the hobby and showing them a few tips and tricks and that. It's like, but I was like, they were like, yeah, sure, put together like a shopping list of what you would need. And I started to realize like, oh crap, like acrylic, miniature paint from like Citadel or Army Painter or Reaper or P3 or any of the companies. It's like, well, it's not cheap. Oddly enough, though, you can get a starter set from GW for $35. It comes with 3 models and some paints, which is not a bad deal. But if I'm going to have 5 to 10 students in the class, I kind of want more colors than what comes in there. And so then when I found about those craft paints, I was like, oh, I can just order this craft paint set for like under $50, and it'll have all the colors in it. And then I'll just have to get some models, not my models. I'm not using mine. Either have them 3D printed or pick up a 10-pack of something for the students. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I was looking at that, and then when I was at the store, I was looking at other acrylics, and then I looked over at oils, and then I looked at inks. I didn't buy any inks though, but I was looking at oils, and so I had watched some videos on oil washes, and oil washes appease me. They appeal to me. They make me wonder, but I didn't buy any because I wasn't exactly sure which of the oil paints to buy because I forgot the video. Because one of the videos, I think it was Trapped in Plastic, they were talking about like which 2 you should buy, and I forgot which ones I should buy, and I was in the store and I didn't want to look it up because the video was like an hour long and I wasn't sure where it was. And I remember from the video is like there's an artist quality and then there's like a starter quality, and basically just get the more expensive tube. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't buy any oil paints, and but I will at some point be getting into oil paints, which led me into watching this crazy Russian guy paint his Sisters of Battle with only oil paints. The link should be in the description below. The crazy Russian guy. I watched his entire video for an hour straight today, like before I started recording this, and it's so beautiful. It makes me so angry. It's like, who lied to me? Who in my miniature painting life lied to me? Because these blends were so beautiful. Like, if you go watch the video, like, if I remember linking it. If not, it's like oil washing Sisters of Battle. Just like, you can look it up, and it looks so good. And like, it's like, I've seen wet blending. I've seen master miniature painters wet blend and achieve crazy blends that look so good. And they're like, but they're feathering between two different brushes. They're constantly keeping everything wet. And they're like really focused and really focused. This guy was just like super cash. Like, I mean, he was probably focused, but like, it seemed so fluid because like hey, this oil paint, don't worry about it. It won't dry. It's not going to dry for a little bit. We got some time. We're good. And it just blended so well. He just took turquoise, took some black, took some turquoise, feathered it together. Suddenly, it was like shiny black. It was so good. Like, go watch it. It blew my mind. Because when I started in miniatures, I was a wee lad. I think my first miniature I ever painted was an International Harvester Scout SUV model from Model Company X. And it was plastic, put it together, painted it with Testor's enamel paint. You know, you remember Testor's enamel paint? You probably have used it recently. Maybe not. Testor's enamel paint, you use paint thinner. It's get a little high. Maybe not. Probably not. Use a little paint thinner in the cup. You thin your brush, and you use red. And like never in my childhood did I ever blend paints or mix. I just was like, red, paint truck, red. And then I moved on to like some World War II airplanes and some F-14s or whatever. Always painted them with enamels. And then I started painting Warhammer, and then I was painting them with enamels, but like the details were terrible, and I was like, no. And then I learned about acrylics, and then I've been with acrylics for 15 years. And at no point until recently did anybody ever say, hey bro, have you thought about oil-based paints? And now I want to try them. They're $12 a tube. And now one thing I know is that oils blend so well together, and you can make so many tonal highlights. You don't need hundreds of different colors. You don't need so many different blends. The reason why acrylics need so many different blends, and I am wearing shorts, so it wasn't my pants, it was my shorts. The reason why you need so many different blends is because the paint dries really quickly. And you need to blend the tones together as you're layering and going through it, which is fine with acrylics, but like oil-based paints don't dry so fast. And like, I'm not saying that oils are better. I haven't tried them. They might not be, but they are intriguing. So that's where we're going to leave it. I bought more plastic when I should have bought camera equipment, but I didn't think about the camera equipment until after I'd already bought the plastic. I bought craft paint when I want to also. I bought craft paint so I can help teach some people how to buy paints, and basically I don't want to steer these new painters, whoever they may be. I don't want to steer them down the road where they end up spending thousands of dollars on things they don't need. I want them to spend thousands of dollars on piles of shame that make them sad when they get home every day. Some of you may be watching this video, if you're watching this long, and you might be thinking to yourself, this monster. Just do drugs. It's cheaper. If you know what this says, let me know. Because I know where I got it from. I just don't know exactly what this says. Geschwister Altwasser. I got this from a wine festival when I was in Germany. And that was a good wine festival. I got this glass because when you get wine, when you go to the wine festival, at least the one I went to, they ask you, do you want half wine or full wine? And I didn't understand what they were saying, what they were asking. What half wine is half of the half-liter glass is filled with wine, and the rest is filled with sparkling water. Because sparkling water is really common in Germany. And what that does is it cuts down on the alcohol content of your drink so you can enjoy more wine. Also, it kind of cuts the flavor. It cuts it a little bit, and it adds a little bit more bubbles. And so, it lets you just enjoy your day. I didn't know what he was talking about. It seemed like a scam to me. So I would always get just only wine in the glass. You get half a liter of wine. You get like a couple of these in you. Next thing you know, you're thinking rose wine is your girlfriend, and you're drinking way too much. Which is why I don't drink anymore. Not because I had a problem, but because, I don't drink anymore because I just don't like it. I just don't like the feeling. I don't like the feeling of being intoxicated. I think I had a beer like 3 months ago, and it was fine. It tasted good. Like, the flavor was fine. But, like, I just didn't like the feeling of... I also like to drive whenever I want to drive, and I don't want to have, like, oh, I drank, so I can't drive, because I'm responsible. So I just don't drink much anymore. Like, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year, but... I really do like this glass, though. It's one of my favorite cups. It's got the little grippy ribs, like ribbed for my grip pleasure. And, yeah. So, that is it. Hope you guys are having a great one. I'm excited to get the stop motion going, but I need to get these Sisters of Battle done, and then I need to move on to the next project, which is probably going to be The Fallen, either The Fallen or The World Eaters. Let me know down below if you want The Fallen to be the next or The World Eaters, because I need to get some chaos done. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. So have a good one. See you around, and goodbye.